Hi, this is Tamara Richardson, and welcome to Seeking Heaven, the Near-Death Experience, and Other Phenomena. Tonight, we have a Halloween special. It's a spooktacular event with Chip Reichenthal, and he has 41 years experience with the paranormal. He's an author of Even the Dead Won't Tell the Truth, as well as he's had his own show for years, which is Kindness Beyond the Veil, which is syndicated on several different channels. He has such a huge career. I'll let you tell, our viewers yourself, Chip. I am just so grateful and honored to have you here. Welcome, Chip.
Well, thank you, Tamara. It's an honor to be here. And we're going to have some fun today. It's kind of hard to find a Halloween where we have to maybe scare people a little less than usual because they come in scared, It's supposed to be scarier than real life,
No kidding, right?
But with that said, I think that has a lot to do with where we are planetary wise. But first, more about myself. Since 1979, with an encounter that really changed my path, I've been looking into paranormal and all types of different communication things, which are not normal.
Well, what's normal these days,
UFOs,
right?
And extraterrestrials and ghosts and spirits, right, and interdimensional beings and the supernatural and witchcraft. And for the majority of the time, because I started back in the day, you couldn't talk about that stuff out loud. Really had to look into it alone, and even if you find psychics, well, they couldn't talk about being psychic out loud. So it was kind of an underground thing, We went out and did our best to find some good paranormalists or psychics. There weren't many back then, I will say that. But, the hard path is normally, especially in retrospect, the best path, found out the hard way how you tell good psychics from the not so good psychics.
Oh, really? Tell me. I'm curious.
Well, I think for me, the game changer was something called cold reading. There's a couple of books that I highly recommend about cold reading. The Art of Cold Reading is one of them. But cold reading is what people like John Edward on some of the daytime shows back in the late 80s and throughout the 90s would get accused of by cynical people. Okay. Cold reading is kind of like a magic trick. They have something in magic called mentalism, where the magician acts like a psychic, He has the robes and the hats and the bell, book, and candle type of stuff. And, he makes predictions about random people in the audience. But cold reading, is, like I said, what John Edward would get accused of when he said, somebody out here in the center row with a J name, And a cynic would say, "Are you kidding me?" I mean, or an M name. Any Italian with a Maria, it's like, what? So
anyone with a father, that kind of thing.
yeah. Any humans in the
okay.
That type of thing. But also, you see that the really genuine, the really good psychics would come up with some information that you just couldn't possibly find even by significant research on somebody. How did you know that? That type of thing. But it's more about the practice itself. The really good psychics are really about the craft and about the message. It's not about money. It's not about baiting somebody for another reading, immediately after the reading you just gave them. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, the outfit would speak for them,
What do you mean?
But a good psychic, their work, their work speaks for them better than anything they're wearing, any fancy capes or,
or turbans or.
Genie hats. Yeah, turbans, right. Yeah.
So maybe it's a good time that since you brought this up, this is actually pretty good. You know, I really never wanted to come out because I remember having this, you know, I have an advertising marketing background. I'm trained in that, you know, I have a BA in marketing and communications, I'm a visual designer and marketer and copywriter. Anyway, that's what I did. And as this gifts from younger started, well, as a child, and then it came out more as I got older, I really was in prayer 14 years. I was like, God, please don't make me do this. I don't want to be a charlatan, because I didn't want to be associated with nutbags or anything like that. And finally,
well, it's a tough line to walk because of that tough rep. You know, we just got that. You know, they're charlatans and they're con artists, and watch out for them, and they're against God, and, you know, I mean, all this different kind of rhetoric that, you know, it's an uphill battle from the jumpstart, you know.
Yeah, it is. So maybe we should tell people about psychic, you know, kind of versus medium, because you probably work with a lot of mediums too. To me, as I know it, psychic is where you know things in this physical plane. Like you may know about someone's, you know, their job, their car, their love life, their dogs, this physical plane having to do with this. I have personal beliefs on that. I don't believe you should interrupt people and tell them what they should do. It just weirds me out. I think you should.
No, I'm with you on that.
I know you are. I know, because you are such a swell guy. I know that you're very ethical. And I think that it's ethics, and that, you know, if you want to support someone and say, hey, look, you know, it's up to you, whatever you want to do. If you want to drive a pitchfork truck, you know, or whatever, you know, whatever you want to do, a forklift truck, you know, that's fine. But you know, for me, if someone wants to know, it's more of a life path. What is your heart's desire? These are some options for you. It's totally up to you. But I don't believe that you should ever tell or evaluate for people, whether it's in a reading or in life, because that's not our job. But far as medium, that's where you're picking up all, you know, the spirit people. Some psychics are just psychics. They don't pick up the spirit world. All mediums are also psychics. And so they pick up the physical plane and they pick up the spiritual plane. They're a little bit higher vibration. And then the way I understood it, that as you go up higher, then you go up to the higher levels, whether it's different dimensions, whether it's aliens, the angelic realm, the Jesus realm, which I channel Jesus only because I saw him on the other side. I have a connection that I saw in my near-death experiences, 2 of them. And but when you go up higher on the higher levels, you really are channeling, so you're even higher than medium. And then some people say you get to the level where you're getting visions, whatever, prophet. I certainly definitely wouldn't want to be called that, but I will tell that people will channel. That's too much responsibility.
Well, it is a lot.
I mean, I would never.
As an evidential medium, I mean that there is kind of an above and beyond to being an evidential medium, because there is some channeling involved in that. But as you were talking about with telling people's futures, you know, see, I can't, and it's because of some mediumship in my past that led me to that. You know, people are here for specific life lessons, you know, in this particular lifetime, if you do believe in more than one lifetime. Or not, you know, it's just kind of the rhetoric. But to give some people a read into what's coming up for them, to me, is like cheating them out of a life lesson they're supposed to learn by going through the motions. I don't want to, you know, forewarned is forearmed, and normally that's a good thing. But with life lessons, you know, we have to learn them the hard way. Even if they're really good, positive lessons, we still have to get there the hard way, you know. So I'm with you on that, you know.
And there's things that some of us go through, and some people might, you know, might say, well, you know, we have, I believe we have contracts on the in-between life when we get here, before we get here. And do we agree to getting diseases, or do we agree to being abused? No, but maybe what we agreed to is learning humility, maybe being compassionate toward others. And the form of that lesson, we don't know how it's going to come, but the good news is we do live forever. So it's not like we really get hurt. And the thing is, the lessons that we have are really tailored to the individual, to to all of us. And I think we agreed, we've been chatting, and you're just an amazing person, Chip.
Oh, thank you. So are you. See,
And
good people know good people.
well, we talked about love. Love is the highest vibration.
Mhm.
And, and we also talked about judgment and being careful of judging people, because we really don't know what shoes they're in, where, what they're walking in life. But I do think that God does not make mistakes. And if you have a natural proclivity to music, like you're an excellent musician, or a writer, or, all of these things maybe, or intuitive, psychic, mediumistic, like you also have that, many times people don't look for that. They just sort of have it, and they're like, what do I do with this?
Yeah. Well, I see the same thing with the paranormal. People just don't wake up one day and say, you know what, I'm going to chase ghosts today. It's more like ghosts choose people than the other way around, because people aren't going to chase something that they're not inclined to believe in normally, And as a paranormalist, I will tell you, when you see stuff move across a room on its own, it changes you. It changes the way you see the world. It changes the way you think about things.
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, I can see, you think, well, what are pivotal points in our life where it changes, not only just paranormal, but what are things in life where it changed our viewpoint, whatever that lesson. And if we really think about it, there are some, but for as paranormal speaking, there were things since childhood that changed my mind on the way things were. And, seeing spirits, but even as I got older, I really didn't want any of this. But, it's funny, the paranormal is something that I hold dear, and that to me is precious and sacred. I don't look at it as spooky. I look at it as magical and fascinating.
Yeah, me too.
And I am not seduced by dark stuff. This is not what I'm talking about. I just look at it a little bit more objectively. And I feel that so many people come toward this topic as a fear-based thing. And I don't think that's healthy, because really God did not give us a spirit of fear. And long as you, we were talking about, what I guess is a good time to talk about ghosts, but we were talking about the other day about boundaries and boundaries in life and boundaries with the paranormal. And I think long as you are, even in this life, respectful to others and mind your business, a lot of it has to do with that. Maybe tell people before we get into this whole thing, because this is a really interesting topic, because so many people just don't know, like, what is a ghost versus a spirit, and maybe start with that.
Okay. Yeah, I guess the easiest way to describe it is ghosts are primarily something. I'm sorry, I have an echo in my headphones. If I stumble,
you sound great.
forgive me. But ghosts are something more for paranormalists, and spirits are something more for a psychic medium, because at least in the most rudimentary terms, a spirit is someone in afterlife who has, as we say, crossed into the light, if you will. And we don't know exactly what that light is, some sort of energy or heaven, or, whatever you may want to term it, These are all very subjective things, especially if there's something that you as people come across. Once you get past the, oh my God, what the heck was that part? And then ghosts are more kind of a manifesting energy. The apparitions, translucent figures of people that you've seen, on TV mostly, or in pictures, mists or ectoplasm. Back when I started, it was all about ectoplasm. It's like, what the hell is that? I still don't know.
Well, what's really weird? I got to say this. This whole ectoplasm thing, I would laugh, because I would think of like, well, who are you going to call? Ghostbusters. And that's what I'm thinking. It's splatter the ectoplasm. But it's funny, because one of the courses that I took as a medium, I think I told you I trained 8 years in evidential mediumship. Not that I wasn't already certified by God, but people have to have, I feel confident. And I really gave my commitment to God and to spirit on this. So I did this thing. And one of the things I've done trance mediumship a few times, and also, which is forms of transfiguration, where literally you have the spirit person come very close to you and they start manifesting their face on you. Now, this is a natural ability that mediums have because they're working with ectoplasm. Now, to me, this all sounded like kind of like baloney, but it did. But then when I did the class, and it was funny because, you know, I am not like, you will not possess my body. You can sit on my lap if I like you. And there's one father, I was like, oh, he's pretty nice. He used to take kids to this summer camp. I was like, all right, you can sit on my lap. But the person was like, oh my God, you can see the face manifest. I'm like, I don't know, because I didn't see it, but I have seen it on other people, and and I have seen it in pictures on me. And to me, it's not possession, but they just come so close.
Well, it is close because it is a full body channel, which is very rare. You know, their voice becomes your voice as you speak. It's a voice that is not yours. You know, it's not your inflection, your pitch, your tone. It's not any of those things regarding your voice. It's that spirit's voice, their mannerisms. You know, sometimes you watch really, really good actors, you know, and a couple of different roles, and they're completely different people. I mean, from the inside out, you know, from the soul on. And it's like, how do they do that? So it's similar to that, except it is, I guess, depending on how you look at it, could be considered something very similar to a possession of some kind. But the difference is, in possessions, you know, they take you over. But in a full body channeling, you know, you have all the options. You as the medium, you as the channeler have all the options, have all the power.
Well, some people would say, oh, blah, 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 blah. Okay, first of all, I'm going to say flat out, I work with God. I do not have anything dark come around me. They know I will open a can of whoop ass Jesus. I don't play with that. However, if somebody's sweet little grandmother that I've been talking to, who's so precious, I could just hug her, you know, she's adorable, or some sweet little grandfather or something like this. And this actually happened just recently when I was in Arkansas. That was odd. I had to get on a plane with the mask and all that. That was very odd. And the conference wasn't that big. I was doing a medium demonstration there because of the COVID, but nice people, met nice people associated with it. Anyway, this one lady that I met had cancer issues, and the grandmother passed of cancer. And the grandmother was like the mom to this woman, and she was in a very low place. So the grandmother said, please just let me hug her. And I was like, oh, crap. So I thought, you know, but I'm like, she wanted to do the whoopee thing, like ghost. And I'm like, all right, because, you know, her granddaughter, who was like her daughter, was very ill like her. And she just,
all you have to do is say ditto and they'll feel like you've done your job.
But the thing is, I'm serving spirit. She was not spooky. I knew exactly. The only last, I said, look, I told the girl, I love when I tell people this, especially like total, like completely confused people. I've talked, I mean, could be anywhere around the world, but like, you know, especially like country people or rednecks. I said, now look, this is going to be weird, but you're going to like it. It's going to last about 30 seconds. It's going to be good. Don't even think about it. Just enjoy it. And they look at me. And then, but we caught on the camera my face changing and whatever. And my eye was drooping just like her grandmother's was. But to me, I thought it was beautiful because she was like a precious woman who did so much for her grandkids and kids that I felt honored for that. And it didn't last long. I let her just kind of share my space. So to me, it's not possession, it's where that is taken over. It's a more of a dark thing, more parasitic, where this is like a hug, but you know how a hug you just, or a kiss, you just don't let everybody kiss you, you know, but that's something that it's by invitation, like, all right, you know, and to me, that's what this feels like. So to me that we're talking about people that have crossed over, speak to our viewers here about why you think that some, well, they're spirit people, but they're ghosts only because I feel like they're stuck in this realm, this etheric realm. They start kind of aging gray looking. They look gray to me because they haven't moved over. So they're more stuck in their human ways. Why do you feel, to me, they say, oh, they're stuck or they're lost. You know, they're stuck in life people. They're stuck and lost people in life. So now all of a sudden they're a spirit. Why do you think some stay in a ghost form? What's your thoughts?
Yeah, excellent question. And, you know, largely, look, and any good paranormal expert will tell you there's no such thing as a paranormal expert because we'd have them in laboratory settings, you know, and we know what this energy really was. But with that said, and I want to touch on something you said about a minute ago when you were talking about channeling the
Okay.
spirit of someone, where most people go, well, how can you do that? You're endangering yourself. And,
Mm-mm.
anything you do for a long, consistent time over and over again, all the stuff about the negativity and the evil and the nastiness and how it goes against religious dogma and all these different things, you bypass over time. Um, I
I
have
agree.
never had a negative encounter in a paranormal setting or a mediumistic setting in the 41 years I've been looking into this. And is that luck or skill? I honestly don't know. I like to think it's luck, but it's what you come to expect. The huge leap that it takes to get to the point where you're comfortable on, whether it's talking to a ghost or a spirit, a spirit that's crossed over or is stuck, if you will. Well, you have to make all the mistakes first. You have to go through all that stuff. Why have I never had a negative encounter? I think it's because I don't buy into the fear. And when you see spirit in the media, on TV shows, it's always nasty. It's going to push
Yes,
you down a flight of stairs and possess you and take over your home. And they're
exactly.
just there to make your life miserable. That's it. They're just going to jam you up and push you down a flight of stairs. But after time, you get a deeper look into all these things, whether they're earthbound, which means that they haven't crossed over, or they have. They can still be, there are things that in your heart and mind you will interpret
Yes.
as good or evil. So it takes some time to get past that initial thing of all the fear mongering with regard to this industry. It's ironic we're talking about this on Halloween, the fear mongering day. But
Oh, yeah, that's true.
I think right now, as we said earlier, real life's scary enough.
Oh,
Halloween would be a
true.
nice little escape, but it's not all necessarily evil. Now, why do some spirits choose not to cross over, go into the
Yeah.
light, and
Yeah.
remain
Why?
earthbound? Is your question.
Yeah. What do you
The
think?
majority of the time in my research,
Hmm.
people don't know they're dead.
Sorry about
It could be an accidental drug overdose. It could be some sort of myocardial infarction. It's a heart attack. That's boom, one
that. Yeah,
bad beat and you're
that's
gone.
true.
You
Absolutely. I
know,
agree.
it could be an accidental overdose. It could be a suicide that you expected just a cry for help, but it took. There's a lot of different things. That would be the number one reason, at least to me, through my research.
Hmm.
They don't know they're dead. Other reasons are
Okay, so they don't know they're dead, and it because
their
they are
death was
still
instant
they're
or
still
not in the
thinking.
manner which they anticipated. I've
Okay.
met
Yeah.
spirits that had
Okay.
the kind of life where everything was handed to them and it was all on their terms. So they anticipate that's how their death is going to be. And when their death isn't on their terms, just like everything in life,
Hmm.
they won't believe they're dead. They'll
Okay.
refuse to believe it.
So they're still conscious and thinking, so they just assume I'm not dead because I'm still thinking, I'm still here.
Mhm.
Yeah, I'm a little confused. Why, why can't people hear me?
Yeah.
But
And
because
this
they
is
don't
one
know.
of the most
Okay.
common misunderstandings in the paranormal world. Let's say it's you, viewer or listener, that all of a sudden you're dead and nobody sees you. You're
Right.
in people's faces, your wife, your brother, your sister, your father, your mother, whoever. You're in their faces, and it's like they don't see you. They they don't. It's like you're invisible, and it's like, what the hell's going on? And you come across somebody, a living person, whether they're aware of it or not. You can sense that they are sensitive to your being there,
Mhm.
and they're ignoring you too. And that's where a lot of these scratches come from, or pushes, or things get flown across a room. It's paranormalists, especially because
Yeah.
they're not particularly sensitive in a psychic sense. They don't know how sensitive they are, and they may have come across the energy of an earthbound source. and then ignored it for whatever reason.
Okay.
Maybe they'll start talking to them and then focus on their equipment instead. Just break that conversation down in an instant. Go, dude, you look at my meter. Look at what my meter's doing. And that spirit's going,
Okay.
no, you're seeing me. Finally, somebody's seeing me. What the hell's going on? Don't stop talking to me. You know, it's a desperation thing. That's not evil. You know, that's not demonic. That's not malicious. So you really have to take a step back before you judge somebody else's intentions.
Well, and I think that also, well, you're right, the intentions. I think that, you know, there are layers of things. And I far as me going in a place, I'll feel layers. I may feel a child energy. I may feel a female energy, but then I may feel something that's not human. Now, it may be a demon, or it may be a freaking gnome in the back of the yard, or a chupacabra. I know people go, that sounds crazy, but, and then we'll talk about that, interdimensional beings where they slip into our dimension and you sense, or no, like, for example, we'll just talk about gnomes, or, you know, where, you know, what is the old thing about gnomes? They live under the bridge. Isn't that like little?
Not a real gnome guy myself. Before we go there, though, it helps check another box for the difference between ghosts and spirits.
Okay, let's go back to ghosts and spirits. We're going to get to the
just
later.
To finish that, because there are some cases you're talking interdimensional, and that's some advanced stuff, and that's quantum physics.
Way too advanced.
But in the paranormal, it's not that advanced. But we can start building on it now.
I totally
in terms
agree.
of ghosts and spirits.
No, this is great. This is fantastic. So I'm with you on the ghosts and spirits, and I do think there are layers. And I think that just to go in and say something is evil, you know, there are lots of layers sometimes of things going on. And sometimes you also have residual, which is just like a record playing, repeating, that is not interactive. And it may seem very frightening. It could be the curtains move at 4 p.m. every day or whatever it is. That's another one too. But talk about boundaries, because I love your philosophy about the paranormal is the same as mine. I don't go on to create problems. I'm very kind and respectful. And I really have never had really any problems with anything like that. I would say 95% of the time, there's that 5% that's going to be out there, but I'm fine.
Yeah, well, you've had a lot of different experiences, though, and you've had trial and error, whereas a lot of the people that are hanging in with us today haven't, and they're like, how do you know? How do you know? First and foremost, back to the point about interdimensionals and ghosts and spirits.
Okay.
Sometimes when you are encountering what you think to be the spirit of somebody stuck on a specific location in a haunted setting, if you will, quote unquote, again, they're actually living people in a time warp. So you could be talking with somebody alive in 1872, you know, not necessarily dead and stuck there because of that quantum physics. Again, it's Einstein's theory of relativity, where space and time are connected. They're the same, they're woven into the same fabric. And in these monumental terms, when our sun might be, or our moon might be warping our gravity, if it warps space, it also warps time because they're interconnected. And by the time it comes into your living room on a very, very micro level, you know, there is just like this hiccup in a timeline. It's like a blurb based on space, based on quantum physics. So sometimes you're actually talking to a living person from 1872 in this haunted location that you may misconstrue as stuck there. And to them, you're on their property, on their timeline, the 1800s, with all this fancy equipment, trespassing on their property and calling them evil, you know, so, and they think you're the ghost.
You know, I could see that because you have those two time periods or dimensions crossing over. They're like, there was actually, I think there was a movie on that about like a romance thing where the guy from another time period, there's been a couple of those different you know, interacting, but this is an interaction between different time periods.
Yeah, that was a Meg Ryan, Hugh Jackman thing, I think. with the Duke of Albany. That's where I live,
Yeah,
so I remember
yeah,
that. He was
yeah. That
from
was
the
one of them,
1800s.
and there was a couple others, but exactly, that's
Yeah.
exactly right.
One of
So
the best paranormal movies, since it's Halloween and everything, was
okay.
a movie called The Others. And,
Oh, that was good. That
I
was
can't
really good.
really prop that movie without giving it away. So for somebody that hasn't seen The Others yet and don't know how it ends, watch it by all means. But there is a specific ending in that movie
Oh gosh,
where if you don't know what's coming, you go, oh my God, I didn't see that. I did not see that. So
yeah,
I don't want to ruin it for folks,
right.
but I will say that it's a really, really
Good.
common thing in the real life paranormal, coming across stuff like that.
It's basically a ghost story, but the ending reminds me of what did that guy, that director, the Indian director, Shamana, whatever his
Oh,
name.
sure. Yeah.
That guy, it's kind of one of like, wow, I didn't see
M.
that.
Night Shyamalan
M. Night
with
Shyamalan.
Sixth Sense.
Yeah.
Another movie where everybody knew how it ended, but because the ending was so awesome, nobody leaked it. So even though
Oh yeah, it was the other one
people
he did.
knew what was going to happen, they wanted to see you have the reaction because it
Yeah,
was
right,
just so cool that spoiling the ending was a disservice, to people you
right,
liked or loved. You just wouldn't go there because, you know,
right. It was Bruce Willis, and it had was it Macaulay Culkin or a little fellow that looked like him, and it was that
um,
movie.
yeah, something like that. I
Yeah, it was
don't
really
remember
good.
his name.
Yeah, it was that was a good one too.
Yeah,
And I like
Macaulay
these
Culkin. Yeah.
Macaulay. Yeah, I love these since we're talking about Halloween. I love these shows or movies, either TV shows or movies that where there's a building, it gives you a creep factor, it gives you because you don't see that. It's always in your face and these horrible, violent, like Saw movies. And some people go, I love those. Well, I don't, but good luck with
I'm not a Saw
that.
guy.
Like,
I am a Freddy Krueger guy because that's
yeah,
metaphysical. That's a dream within a dream,
yeah,
or is the whole thing a dream? It's like based on existential philosophy. Yeah. And
yeah.
it's very cool with the special effects and everything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There's a lot of Freddy Krueger fans, but I
Yeah.
love how when you build a creep factor, I will tell you there is something new that I saw on Netflix, and it's House on Haunted Hill. Now they have two, Blythe Manor, and they have the
The
first
new one,
one.
the
Did you see that one yet?
not yet. No, I
It's
haven't
okay.
finished House on Haunted Hill yet, or
The House on Haunted
Hill
Hill.
House or whatever that is.
Okay,
Yeah, know
House
the
on
one you're
Haunted
talking about.
Hill will say, I'm not going to tell you that, give anything away, but I will say that the first episode or two is a little boring. If you hang with it, it is all of a sudden things will go, oh my God, that's scary as hell. Like it's basically like a ghost story. So it's that kind of creepiness, and it gets creepier and creepier. The same people did Blythe Manor, and so you'll see the dad plays another person in there, and the mother, you'll see them. The cast is basically back in it, but it's the same kind of feel. And if
I still have to get past the second episode of the first one, like you
yeah,
said.
so hang in there.
I
It's
didn't have,
boring.
look, I mean, you don't think that cops are going to end their shift and watch a whole bunch of cop movies. It's like the last thing they really want to see. So as a paranormalist, you know, one of the last things I'm going to have patience with is
You're
a
like that didn't go
15
like that.
episode, each episode an hour and a half to get to the point, I could see the point in real life. I don't need it. That's why I haven't been patient, as you say,
Well,
with
no,
this.
you're right, and it's and that's one thing about being a. I think I mentioned that 8 or 9 years ago or so forth. And you can go online and you can see it. Oh, it's Carolina Ghost Girl. That was me. And people said, Tamara, you're very positive. I don't think that's positive for you, but I used to ghost hunt. And the reason I did that is I just wanted to, experience that whole phenomenon. And I did that for a couple years. I would go to a historical place and read the place and all that. But what I found, I was a crappy ghost hunter because people would come to me. Oh, you could see them in the camera and then follow me like little puppies, spirits.
Mm-hmm.
And I would, hear the story and say, I'm so sorry that happened. I wish you well. You can stand with me and I'll pray with you right now and have the angels come. And they were like, nobody's prayed for me in like 100 years. And they were like shocked. And then they brought more. They would come out. And then I said, well, do you want to stay here? You can, but if not, there's an option. I mean, it's totally up to you. And then so many would. And I'm like, well, people that want to keep a place haunted or with activity, not really good to bring me in because I'm like, I feel like dogs in a pound. I'm like, free them all. They're all free.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I've always seen this tremendous gap between paranormalists and mediums. Mediums are like, why go out for a hamburger when you can have steak at home? They come to you.
Yeah, they do.
What are you going out with all this? Why are you spending $800 on this meter that you can go out and all these lasers and stuff? Just talk to them. And there is, it's just a whole different kind of practice. And as a paranormalist going to a psychic event,
how's that?
It felt like you were in a foreign country.
Really?
They were speaking a whole different language. Oh yeah. Well, before I had some mediumistic tendencies myself.
Yes,
we'd go to these paranormal conventions, and everybody understood where we were. And then we went to a psychic, whatever you call it, a club
conference,
or thing.
Conference, expo.
No, I was like these little events where all these
psychic fair.
Thank you. Yeah. And it was like we were fish out of water. I mean, we had no idea, and we felt just so foreign there.
It's funny because a lot of, I don't know, that's funny. I would love to get your take more on this because that cracks me up. I just had a conversation today with a friend of mine about, she didn't really give me a hard time. I'm doing this speed reading thing. It's medium or psychic. I don't really care, but in South Africa with some evidential mediums, and I just thought it'd be fun. It's really for no money or anything. It's just to kind of work
like a hoot,
like your jobs. I thought, and then I got Japanese mediums. I thought that'd be kind of cool working with this whole little exotic mixture. And she's like, oh, these things is basically on a psychic fair. I'm like, no, not really. To me, I always believe it's important to push your ability. So I think it sounds fun, but I have done those. I don't like the energy. I have gone into some and I walk in and some people, I'm going to be honest and I want to hear your feedback, but a lot of these that I've been psychic fairs early on, I would do that. Let's talk about the positive. It would help with being able to get readings quick. But what spirit it would do, I'd say, I got 20 minutes. So I thought they'd just give me a couple things or 30 minutes. They would give me the whole freaking family, like the guy, who talked really fast and like the FedEx commercial. I was like, well, I didn't expect that. So it helps you work getting your chops down and it helps you work with energy. However, what I found is a lot of the people that are there are full of crap, and they have these gimmicks and these weird things, and some of them have really bad energy. They just feel, you're saying, do they have an attachment? I don't know about that. I'm just talking about them as people. They just feel like as people, like you're very positive and outgoing. They don't feel so positive.
Well, there's good and bad people in any field, in any job, in any practice.
But that kind of surprised me.
Same with the paranormal, though, especially people you've looked up to or you see on TV. Ego. Anytime there's an ego involved, things are going to go downhill. So that's
you probably have seen that a lot.
Too much, more than I'd like to admit. And it's kind of a heartbreaking thing, but you see it with psychics, you see it with paranormalists, you see it with cashiers, you see it with waitresses, lawyers, whatever the craft is, people. And I was just thinking about this the other day, don't know why, but French philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, famous comment was, hell is other people.
Oh my God, that is so funny. Yeah. Well, we were laughing about, look, we're going to have fun with a Halloween special and talk about ghouls, goblins, ghosts, and finally get away from the real fear of all the craziness of the world, and we laughed about it.
Yeah, any good media will tell you, the living creep them out.
Right.
Yeah. The dead are fine. Stay away from the living, man. They can really mess you up.
Well, that's funny because people said, aren't you afraid? I'm going to be honest with you. I'm not afraid of people. I love people. But if I had to pick, I choose spirit more than people. Now we're spirit too. We just have these vessels, these meat suits, but
meat suits.
They're meat suits, but we have these bodies, but when they come, especially the crossed over, they're just in a better place. They've had little,
there is a clear peace there, that you don't see in an earthbound situation necessarily.
And they're even nicer than like human people, us, because they've been in the presence of God. And I figure whatever you call heaven, it's a big, it's very big and different dimensions or areas, but they are there, and that you can't really have a crappy attitude in that presence, that low vibration. So they come back usually like, yeah, I screwed up. Yeah, well, and they work with them. So they're like nicer than we are. So they've always told me the truth, and they always have, I've talked to them as a kid, and I feel they're my friends. And I can trust them. The lower vibration, like ghosts, sometimes they are a little bit, they're working through things, right?
Yeah, well, some crossover spirits are too.
Yeah, that's true.
But the biggest, I think the biggest drawback to an earthbound and working with an earthbound, if you're not familiar with them, is one's own bias, one's own belief. There is something, because I'm also a clinical hypnotherapist. I haven't mentioned that yet. I do a lot of hypnotherapy on folks. My personal favorite is the past life regression hypnosis, but it's still an understanding of the subconscious. And so any time you might see something like an earthbound spirit or ghost, if you will, or for somehow in some way come across some sort of engagement or interaction with spirit, what you're going to experience is purely based on what you believe. We have this thing, one of the most important things to me in my psychology career, as well as paranormal and parapsychology, is a thing called self-fulfilling prophecy.
Right.
A self-fulfilling prophecy is something that you believe. It's in your fabric. It's layered in. If you're born up or brought up with a specific religious dogmatic belief, even though it wasn't yours to begin with, it's a belief you inherited from your parents or your family or your neighborhood or whatever got you into that church in the first place, is going to basically predate any conclusions you come up with. And because so many people are ingrained to think that ghosts are demonic, or any kind of communication with spirit, it goes against God, or it is itself as a practice evil or supernatural, then they will only see the things that back up their beliefs. The easy example of a self-fulfilling prophecy is, okay, I've got a cough and a sore throat today, so I must have a cold, So anybody that says, no, you're perfectly healthy, it's like, yeah, whatever, dude. Anybody says, oh, yeah, you're a little warm. See, it's ingrained in mental health and physical health,
right.
And medicines. You think you're sick, and especially in this system, you go to somebody that's smarter than you, and they give you a label. You have post-traumatic stress disorder. Oh, okay. Not just post-traumatic stress, but disorder. Got it. Okay. So now I'm separated from everybody else, even people that have post-traumatic stress, because I'm disordered, right? So it's a title you wear. Diabetes, you're going to be diabetic for the rest of your life. Bipolar, you're going to be bipolar for the rest of your life. But you don't see that in indigenous medicines or alternative healing.
Not really.
Yeah, I don't want to get too much out of the box here, but same thing with the paranormal. I've seen so many people that we mentioned that ghosts choose people rather than people choose ghosts.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
people's first experiences, if they're scary, then they're going to believe it's all about fear and chasing that fear or chasing that fear away, surviving that fear, one or the other. But it's all about fear. So if they come across Casper the Friendly Ghost, they're going to say, nah, where's Faust, man? You don't want to see that devil. It's got to be demonic and evil, and they won't believe it unless it fits their guidelines of that self-fulfilling prophecy.
So I think what to take away from there is to kind of start thinking, what are your thoughts? What are you trying to make things match in that? And to make it more simple, haven't you seen the woman or man let's just use a woman for example. Oh, men are awful. Men are awful. Well, is she going to ever really meet a nice guy? Because all she's saying is men suck, right? So she's going to meet what? Not so nice men. The same thing is there was a lady that it was funny. I was doing a reading with, and she was like totally freaked out before the reading. Like she was a young lady in her 20s. And she's freaked out. I said, we need to do some breathing first. Okay, do you have some questions? Because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. You can see she's like all bugged out. And then finally we relaxed. She goes, well, I have these shadows. I have these things. And what I realized is she's herself, don't know why, that's a whole nother subject, is in such a, and she wasn't a bad person, but she has such anxiety for no reason, just anxiety over anxiety. And so freaked out about she can sense things that she's so worried constantly. I don't want to see anything dark. I don't want to see anything dark. Guess what she's seeing?
Well,
because she's pulling it in. I say, quit pulling it in. Why? I don't think about stuff like that. I think about the beauty of people, the beauty of this world. I thank God.
That's the real secret, that law of attraction. It's not you just sit there and say, you know what, I just going to think that all the good stuff has happened already and that $600 check is going to come in the mail, even though it's got no business being here. No, the law of attraction, do the work, first of all. And second of all, you know, you reap what you sow. You attract what you portray. And your beliefs and preconceptions and biases are a huge part of that. You're not going to believe you're encountering a ghost unless it's scary, because that's what your belief is based on.
That's what her belief is.
And anything that is out for negative means, for malice and malicious or evil intentions, preys on fear.
Oh, you know? Let's talk about that. Let's talk about this is a good point. Let's talk about, you know, the girl with the example who I was like, she's pulling this stuff in. Like, what's she doing in her mind? Like, quit thinking about that.
That's the law of attraction.
Yeah, quit doing that.
The Hermetic principle. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. But let's talk about also too about like when you were ghost hunting, or for me as a medium, honestly, I can go anywhere. I just got back from vacation and I had a little issue with a bully spirit. He was kind of nasty. And I had to just say, you got to stay outside of here and leave me alone. But let's talk about boundaries and respect. And the other thing is hauntings. Hauntings, in my opinion, and I think yours probably too, is that it could virtually be anywhere.
Yeah. A friend of mine said that. I'll drop his name. He's a good guy. David Oman, Oman. He built property right at the spot of the Sharon Tate murders, the Manson family, Charles Manson family.
Did he know that?
Yeah, I think he and his father built the place. You know, they had property on Cielo Drive. I mean, you know, if that's the case, who cares, right? But it turns out to be one of the most active properties in the world.
Oh boy.
You know, and he will tell you from somebody who experiences it from a paranormal perspective, not a mediumistic, over and over and over and over, is that anywhere you go could be haunted, technically, because it resonates with someone who's died. You know,
everybody's died somewhere. Even if you go back 200, 300, 500, 1,000, somebody's died on your property somewhere or close by. And so that's why I bless my home. And I said, this is my sanctuary. This is where I live with my angels. Okay, a couple of nice family members is fine, but in spirit. But this is my territory, and because they used to bother me in my dreams, like help me. I'm like, I'm not on duty. Sorry, make that happen later on. And so, but that to me is like boundaries I set. Like I'm off duty. Sorry. So now they don't even. They know like this is my downtime. This is my time. This is your time, spirit. This is my time. And to make that distinction in my space, because the minute you walk out the door, boom, you're free game. Meaning there's spirits everywhere, right?
Well, if you're a beacon, you know, they'll see it, they'll sense it, you know. But again, you can talk to 1,000 different mediums. You can have 1,000 different mediums talking to the same spirit, and they will have 1,000 different discussions, dialogues with that spirit, because it starts with them first and their beliefs, preconceptions, biases, perceptions. And we're all different. You know,
Right.
you personally have done some work with the Lord. You know, that's a big part of you. And I see a lot of people in the paranormal, you know, who come from a religious background of religion and that dogma. So they will use priests or holy water or certain things if they think that there is some evil, you know, that's
Right.
in a particular setting. And it works great for them, again, because of their beliefs, their
It's true.
biases, their preconceptions, the self-fulfilling prophecy, you know. But I've also seen a lot of hauntings, if you will, where the history goes much further back, you know, to the Native American or
Right.
Indian, you know. I mean, back then we called them Indians.
Yeah.
You
Right.
know, you see the spirit of a Native American from the 1800s, and you don't address them as an Indian. If you say, "Oh, you got a Native American," they're not going to know what the hell you're talking about.
That's true. That's
When
true.
you're
That their
what?
vocabulary is different. Right.
What? Yeah, politically correct. What? We didn't have that when I was getting beaten. Um, but it, you know, and there were indigenous curses put on property because of just
Well,
criminal
sacred.
acts
Right.
against them on their land. So a priest would not be
A
effective,
person.
you know,
Well, right. It would be a
ridding
medicine
that
man.
property of
Right.
any kind of evil if that evil in itself wasn't based on one specific faith.
Right.
So
Well, that's
we,
why when I used to do house blessings, and every time I do, you're blessing the area, not just the house, the area. I find you got to bless the people. The people are usually worse than the house. The people that live there,
yeah.
a lot of times they're most the problem because of whatever's going on. But when you bless an area, whatever that area is, things always came out for me right out of the woodwork. And I don't mean like current, they could be way back. I mean, my blessings are good. And so I'm like, I'm not doing this crap anymore because everything will come out. But then it all inevitably went back to the family to have to handle
Mm-hmm.
whatever the situation, because like you said, the spirit or the picks the person. And so
Mm-hmm.
there's a reason why this was happening with this particular person. But going back to the house blessing, there are, people are either not religious, agnostic, or they have certain, everybody grew up with something. And you can't, if you're coming in and say like Christian, Catholic, Jewish, you can't, whatever your thing is, or you, and the family is Muslim, they need to get their person, because they're, that's not going to, how do I say it? I say, look, this is how I do it. But, and I've actually done clearings with people and said, this is how I do it. You do it your way. You do it your way, the way I do it my way. So they're doing their thing and I'm doing it my way. I work, of course, with Jesus. And then I've worked with other people that, Jesus is fine, but they're Jewish. I'm like, that's fine. That's cool. Do it your way. Do it your way. We're in here together. It doesn't matter. And it works fine. But that's how I do it. Use your religion, whatever that is. I'll use wherever I'm coming from. It's all for the unity and love for all, love for you guys, love for the people here in spirit. It's just for everybody to be at peace and get along.
Yeah. And
Right?
you have to hope that the living people, once all that's done, will be good people and get along, because we
You
don't
hope.
know that either.
Yeah.
Sometimes the dysfunction matches
Right.
as above, so below. If there's
Yeah.
dysfunction in the living
That's exactly
and
right.
they're on a property where there's a history of dysfunction, one will feed the other, and then the
Right.
other will feed back into one, and it snowballs. It's like this
I agree.
really kind of a butterfly effect of chaos.
No, I agree.
And I've also
100%.
seen, people burn sage. That's like a very kind of a quick fix type of thing. I'm not a sage burner myself. The smell, I don't. It's just a personal thing, I guess. But it's not a fix. It's
No.
a temporary fix. Some
Yeah.
blessings can be temporary fixes,
Right.
and and the place feels like so empty afterward. Go, oh my God, I mean, it feels like
Yeah.
completely different, but it's temporary.
A week
And
later,
once that stuff comes back, it comes back with
big.
a problem. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's
But
got
yeah.
issues when it
Yeah.
comes back.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. I
You got a
agree.
lot of nerve kicking me out of my property.
Exactly.
What's up with
Well,
that? Yeah.
and people say, oh, the sage. And I'm going, to me, I'm with you. Early on, before I knew better, I did the sage. I don't play. For me, I get holy water from Lourdes, Italy, stamped by all these freaking nuns. I get, I do bless frankincense and myrrh, and I go through all my doorways. I bless the corners with the holy water. I have exorcism prayers because here's the thing: if you're getting an exterminator to come in to kill bugs, don't just kill the roaches, kill ants. Just have it all in there. So I figure just knock it all out. So then I claim the space that's holy and beautiful and all this. At the same time, once you do that, you can't have a bunch of arguing and carrying on because then it won't stick. Mm-hmm. Right? You got to actually honor that. So that's what I couldn't. I had to go stronger for me. And,
sure. But it's a very tricky. The trickiest part is every particular situation is particular to that situation. Mm-hmm. I've seen malevolent hauntings that turned out to be lifesavers. There was this one case. Yeah, I think it was on a TV show, so it's not can't take personal credit for this, where the haunting spirit, the taunting and haunting spirit, turned out to be the uncle of the experiencer, the person having this experience.
Okay.
The living person was inheriting this drinking problem that the uncle in spirit died of.
Oh boy.
So the uncle scared the daylights out of this living person to scare them sober. So the haunting, as it turns out, was a necessity as a lifesaver. So you never know. I mean, every situation is different. And that's what really complicates things, because we have to really zoom out 400,000 feet and see something as objectively as possible and from as outside looking in as possible in order to even know, if even bad things happen for good reasons.
Well, I'll tell you this.
Happen for bad reasons.
And I don't know. And I know that gosh, there's so much we want to cover, and we're going to do some more of this in the live version.
That's right. We'll be live.
But I look at the bad things that's happened, say bad, what people consider bad, to me were very positive. I was always fascinated with the paranormal, and I remember going to the school library at 13 and studying like Edgar Cayce and the paranormal and all sorts of stuff. I couldn't get enough of this. And it's funny because what you're passionate about is what you become, what you absorb in your spirit. And I really have always been that way. So, and I was very interested in UFOs and all these things I talk about. So this is nothing new. This is something I came right out of the hatch. I think we were talking about, as when I could barely even look at the TV. I remember like Dark Shadows, and I remember Night Gallery. I was like 9 or 10. They came out. It was so horrifying, but I couldn't stop watching it. And because it made my mind grow. It made me question. But I wouldn't say that I would, like past lives. I wasn't really sure. I've had over 300 hours of past life. I was like, wow, who knew? Dark stuff. I've literally experienced some demonic stuff. I've seen people manifest with full on possession, and one of my shows, and the voice. I wouldn't have believed it. Is what I'm trying to say. I wouldn't have really believed it, and the voice changed, and it was a female to a male, and electronic, which no human can make that. At the time, I was like shocked how everyone saw. We're like, oh my God, broad daylight. This manifested, by the way. It was at an event I was doing. It was a big convention center. And this person was with their mom, and they came over to my booth and threatened me. And I was shocked that I immediately knew what to do. First of all, I said, I am always protected by the blood of Jesus. And then it hissed at me. And then what happened with this whole experience, I went back later and said, Jesus, I'm begging him before I'm going to sleep. I blessed my hotel room. My friend was with me, and I was like, I blessed it. And I was like, oh God, what do I do? And I'm like begging him, to show up in my dreams. Finally, he does. He goes, the highest message is you're talking about heaven and love and God and me. You pissed it off. You drew it out. And I'm like, broad daylight at a basically female event. And he said, it's the highest vibration. I didn't like it. But what I realized is it made my faith go from here to here. I mean, it just made me like all about God and a badass for God. So was it a bad experience? It was kind of shocking. And there's other things that have happened, But I'm like, I don't know what that thing was trying to accomplish, because all it did is made me closer to God. So sometimes these things happen to shock people to get on the right path. And they may seem bad, or they may have a horrible haunting. My sister had a situation at her condo, and it wasn't the condo. I think it was my relatives and spirits, and she literally saw a manifestation of large heads with their face in it. And I think it was at the time she's going through difficult times. She's great now, everything's great. But I think my relatives intervened. I said, no, it's not the place. And it's an act of love, is what it is. It's an act of love.
In that particular situation, it took you to a better place. I'm sure it was very traumatizing at the time, but took you to a better place. And look, I can't pretend that it's all, sunshine and lollipops here, but it's just, I like to point out that benevolent and even benign things happen a lot more often than bad things happen in a paranormal setting or a setting with spirit. But that doesn't mean that it's not out there, because it absolutely is.
Right.
It's just, I've seen more situations where benign or benevolent things were automatically misinterpreted as malicious than I've seen the other way around.
I agree with that
because it's in the media. Everything's about fear, fear, fear. Nice ghosts don't sell cereal unless you're watching a cartoon.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And you even talked about like Lizzie Borden and the house and whatever. I think, my personal opinion, I think it's horrible to have a place where there was a trauma and to keep like reenacting that trauma and keep doing this, or even like when they have revolutionary, you're reenacting that. And so you're like, let it go, let them rest in peace, or don't traumatize them, or don't bull bait them. Don't, let me tell you, blah, blah, blah. If they get thrown across the room, I'm like, well, they were misbehaving. I mean, you need to be respectful. You would be respectful in someone's home if they were living. Why wouldn't you be respectful if you're, for example, on a historical property? I am. When I visit museums and like that are plantation homes, I'm like, look, I'm just here on vacation. You have a gorgeous home. God bless you. I don't want any problem. I'm just, thank you for letting me be here. That's what I say.
Yeah. Well, history. You're hitting one of my big pet peeves with that whole Lizzie Borden.
Boy, what did I say? Oh no.
No, it's just that particular property. And look, maybe the road to hell is paved with the best intentions. And maybe they think they're honoring the history of this woman whose life was full and riddled with horrific abuse. And the afterlife just doesn't change, because the more people line up to buy tickets to try to communicate with the spirit of Lizzie Borden, is the more the spirit of Lizzie Borden is trapped there. And she was trapped in life just like she's trapped here. And the whole poem about, she took an axe and gave her father 40 whacks and all that stuff is reintroduced to the conversation. And these people are making money by continuing the torture in life or afterlife. This woman who was tortured in life. And it angers me. I just really don't,
I agree.
Unless it's treated for a good reason. You mentioned historical places. There are some places that have muskets of old Civil War generals or whatever. And in a sense, it honors the history of the spirit who owned that muzzle, if it's used for that purpose. And oftentimes you can find amazing things at historic sites, paranormally speaking. But when it's a novelty, when they take a tortured, abused person and make a circus act out of them, that's just, it's a personal thing for me. And I'll probably tell you Friday with the live show, because at some point we're going to talk about crossing spirits over. And I had a personal case that was very close to that whole Lizzie Borden kind of feel. So that's why I take it.
Well, that would actually be good for the live thing. Let's save that, because the people are going to, this is premiering, Thursday at 4. And then on Friday, we can actually talk about how to cross people, or if you're at a place. Now, here's the thing. I will say this, just because, and someone wants to do it immediately. You can't force anybody to do anything. You can, as an invitation, say, look, I'm just a facilitator. I'm not doing the work. I bring God, Jesus, the angels. I'm going to visualize in my mind this white light, and I'm going to walk through this. And it's kind of like basically being a minister. But if you try to force somebody to cross and they're not ready and they want to be in that state, you need to leave that alone, because you can get a bad reaction.
Well, yeah, and one level further, in a paranormal setting where that property is designed to have these spirits there for paranormalists to come in and communicate with, the living that own the property, the last thing they want is their circus novelty to be gone. So it's a something that messes with the living as well as the dead, without permission, without specific permission.
Well, you probably know a lot more about this than I do, but I do know, I can say a couple of, I will not say who, a couple of famous places, not near me, okay, in the Carolinas, but there are people that have literally locations. One is asylum, one is a big like Victorian home, and all they do is they conduct investigations in the home to train people to be ghost hunters, which they're trapping those ghosts and those things there, and they're heightening the activity. And to me, it's kind of like this. It's like if you hunt for sport, I'm not a hunter. I would just cry. I'm like, we catch, animals and release them and help squirrels. So I'm like the wrong person to talk to about that. But if you were a hunter for sport, personally, I'm probably hope I don't get hate mail, but I think that's wrong. If you have to eat, that's different. But to go in there and to hunt and to harass this thing just for your amusement and entertainment, and to teach others, there's something that's ethically feels wrong to me about that. What do you think?
Well, each to themselves. I mean, the people love to hunt, and other people don't.
I mean, like
it is what it is. But ghost hunting,
hunting,
it's not like you've got paranormalists going out with ghost bows and arrows to, aim it. But yeah, it depends.
Okay.
I've been to some of those locations, and you see them on the
it?
TV shows, the big asylums and things of that nature. It depends on what they're teaching there.
Oh,
because
okay.
you said if they're teaching responsible practice, which is something you can get lured off of TV shows where they don't do that.
Right.
TV shows for the most part is not the recommended methodology for a paranormal investigation properly. You don't taunt things so you can get stuff to show up on your camera, because you leave that place behind and people have to clean up your mess. That's terrible.
Right. Okay.
But if they're using these things to teach a good method, the difference between what natural events can explain away something that looks paranormal, and how you really have to tick all those boxes before you can say we have something paranormal here. Great. If they're teaching compassion in their method with spirit and how to work with spirit as opposed to what you see on some of the TV shows, great. But if it's a novelty thing, some of these asylums, I mean, it's not the same spirits over and over again. There were hundreds of thousands of lost souls caged in these buildings for decades. So there's always good pickings, but when you bring something specific, to Lizzie Borden.
Okay. I get it. Okay.
That keeps that one person in spirit there.
I hear you.
And they were tortured enough in life. So it's just not fair. And but we were on one of those locations, and kind of a quick story. They have their tour medium. Okay, you're a medium, so you're an evidential medium. The tour medium on this specific, I'm not going to name where we went. It was kind of an asylum type of setting, if you will. Depends on how you interpret that. See, I'm making it really hard to figure out where we went.
Okay, that's
But the tour medium, the extent of their mediumship was walking in front of us and all of a sudden stopping and say, "Stop touching me." That was their mediumship. My wife and I weren't fooled by that. It's like, what the hell? Anyway, I had this flashlight session going. I it's a personal thing. I like the flashlight. You get these flashlights that screw on and
I
off.
like the flashlight
And
too.
you get
I've
them,
done
yeah,
that. I do.
right
I
to
like
the point in between on and off, and then you set them down. And it's not too hard for the energy of spirit to turn that flashlight on for you to answer a question in real time. You know, they have spirit boxes and do that. I'm a flashlight guy myself. That's just me. But I was talking to this person that worked maintenance on the property, right? And we're having this great talk. He was telling me that he worked 20 hours a day. He was there, you know, 24/7. Worked 20 hours a day to keep that place, you know, going, at least maintenance wise, you know, heating and cooling and, you know, plumbing. And, you know, I mean, he was really maintaining everything. He took such pride in that, right? And so our tour medium comes in and says, "Oh, who are you talking to?" And I said, "Oh, I got this maintenance guy. He's so proud." And she starts yelling at the maintenance guy, "How dare you rape children?" And, you know, it's like, what are you doing? They wonder why they have all this, you know, malicious energy on the property. And they're judging people in spirit. What do you think's going to happen? And it's like, that's, we're having a good conversation here. Come on now.
Got pride in the job, and then he gets yelled at. No, that
And accused. I mean, we didn't, you know, that's another thing with the Lizzie Borden. In real life, she was anticipating, she had found a new lawyer. They were going to an appeals court where she fully believed before she died that she was going to be found innocent of those charges, you know, and
that
didn't live to see it out.
No,
so to be condemned for not only something that, you know, she was just on the verge of solving, you know, before her death, and to condemn her anyway in the afterlife is just, there's layers of.
I get it. So it's about, you know, it's really back to kindness and being ethical. But, you know, you look in this world, I mean, just humans to humans, we don't always treat each other very kindly or considerate, and we're so quick to pass judgment when if we shift our viewpoint toward the other person's, and that's the best decision they probably could have made at that time. And
but it's something you said at the very beginning of the interview, where you said that, you know, you try not to be judgmental, and you look at these encounters as something more of a fascination than a fearful thing.
Yeah, it's interesting.
You know, something more positive than negative. The encounter alone, if you can have the real-time communication with some interdimensional being, whether it be a ghost or an extraterrestrial or a gnome or a fairy or whatever, you know, that is like the greatest, to me, that's the greatest honor of all time.
It is an honor.
So I'm not going to, you know, for me, it's unconditional acceptance, you know.
Well, they're trying to communicate.
To judge anyway. I'm not a professional judge. I'm not paid to judge people. I've got no business judging.
Right.
You know?
Well, and you know, and you're right. If you are so closed down and people go, "I'm closed," you know, if they're shut down, they may not realize it. Then they're like, "Well, I don't have an experience." And then you've got experienced junkies. Now, I personally do not think you should be doing EVPs and all this stuff in your home. I think you're kind of asking to open a portal or a doorway. And most mediums are portals. Now, I connect to 111 guide. That's my portal. That's my radio channel. But there are different dimensions, different, you want to say wavelengths, energetic places you connect to. So all mediums are portals, but we can create portals through, whether it's the Ouija, whether it's through witchcraft, whether it's through, you know, doing your EVP in your home, which I don't recommend. Or another portal, a positive portal, could be when people open up and they have a conversation with God, or they go into prayer. That is a portal. That is, you're like, hey, you know. So I think it's being mindful of your intentions and what you want, and being accountable. And it's always back to ethics and being treated how you want to be treated. And also, if I don't have the Pandora's box curiosity, I'm just going to look at anything, because, you know, that I don't. I am respectful, but I also tread lightly. If I feel, that sense of discernment, like, yeah, I don't feel like I'm supposed to go down this road or hang out with these people or do this particular thing. I try to listen to that, and it's whether it's the living people or something that's there. To me, I don't really care. I just try to listen to that discernment, and I think to me, if people had discernment, then they would not be coming from a lot of times the fear-based things, because they would start trusting themselves.
Well, the toughest thing here, really, for anyone, including myself, because I'm going to go back to any good expert will tell you there are no experts here,
Oh, that's
is for people to not know when they're over their head. Because
wow,
most
wow, that's a
people, when
good
they
one.
don't
That's a good
know
one.
that they're over their head, will
I
be
have
the
been before.
last
Yep,
ones to admit that. It's just human nature.
right.
You don't want to be stupid. You don't want to out yourself as stupid. You don't want to think of yourself as stupid. But it's a good thing to recognize
Mhm.
when
Your
you
limitation,
don't know what you don't know.
right.
You don't know what you know and don't know. A lot of
You don't know that you don't know that you don't know.
no, I mean a lot of paranormal type of
Yeah.
investigations from paranormal groups is people with hauntings, people with residual haunting, people that are terrorized, traumatized
Mhm.
by some dynamic in the household. And it's hard for paranormalists to be better mediums than mediums. It's hard for mediums to be better paranormalists than paranormal, and that's why it's always good to have a little bit of both,
Yeah.
especially if you're going to do investigations, and especially if you're going to do investigations where somebody is being terrorized in their own home,
Right.
because you don't know what that could be and you can't anticipate what you've never experienced. Even really experienced mediums and paranormals shouldn't be doing some of those things
Well, I know my limits.
because there are no experts. I
Right.
know you do, but
I
the
well,
people watching and
I
listening may not.
well,
That's the
I
whole. That's why we're here.
well, I have like when I did the house, I did house blessings very innocent, like, okay, I'll come in here, bring my little so and so and put the crosses over the door, and I'm bringing in Jesus. I was very naive. And a lot of times I would open a can of worms, and I was just stupid about it. I didn't know. I'm blessing, I'm clearing it. Anything, and it could be a mile away, it just comes on out. And so I'm like, after 3 times, I'm like, I'm done. I'll do my business. Look, it's your place. You need to take responsibility. I will tell people, look, I have a whole outline. You can have it, you do it, take responsibility because it's their property. Take responsibility, what you do on it, blessing it, the whole bit. But I realized that, so many people create a situation, and then they bring in a paranormal team, and then they wanting them to fix it when they need to take some responsibility too. And also, if it is cleared, they need to live in a peaceful state. So we're back, boundaries are not just for people or spirit people, but for us too. Like if there's anything, and I do get discernment if there is something demonic. I do know. And it's not a lot, but when it does happen, I call Bill Bean. I'm like, hey, I got a lead for you. A lot of times it's really like, how would you know? Oh my God. A lot of times it's really clear. The last one was a guy who was from not even in this country. And he wrote me, and I said, want my help? And I said, well, can you be more clear what that is? Because I just had a weird, strange feeling. But I still wanted to be kind. He goes, oh yeah, well, I've been doing, black magic and satanic stuff, and I have these problems. I'm like, okay, so this is not my area. I don't do that. You need to talk to this person and let them a specialist. And I think that's I know my boundaries. At the same time, I feel sorry for them. You could say, oh, fearful. I'm like, because the guy's being traumatized for something he created. Because a lot of times people will get into things and they don't really realize they're opening Pandora's box. They don't really realize what they're doing. But I do know that I do have people I refer for different specialties, even
Yeah,
shaman.
but the beauty is if they do realize that it's something they did, that's saying a lot in that, because most people won't go there. They don't want to
Yeah.
admit that they screwed up. They don't want to admit that they're stupid, and they still could be wrong about that. It could be something that's there, regardless of what they're doing.
I'll tell you
what they
something.
did.
I'll tell you something personal, and I haven't told you this yet, but I'm like, why not? Okay, so I used to, years ago, I used to do readings in my home. That does not happen anymore. Even if I had, for us, the fanciest office, I still wouldn't do it because it works great for me online because I do it all over the world. It works because spirit doesn't need a chair. Okay. But one of the key reasons I stopped doing that, I did an event. There was a couple there, very sweet older couple, so cute. Their dad, both dads came through a bunch, but it was very sweet. So they wanted a reading. So I thought, oh, they're very sweet. So they came over to my house, and the reading with the father came through. He was very protective. I'm like, that seems kind of unusual. A lot of detail, and a woman shows up. I said, and she felt, I never had this happen. Felt nasty. I don't let nasty people through. And I said, is your mother? Is she crossed over? She goes, well, I wouldn't say crossed over. What they didn't tell me, they didn't purposely tell me this. They did not tell me this on purpose. They thought, and this has happened before. So like I have a way of handling this. They want to see if I was really good, I would know they have been haunted for 4 years by their mom, and a horrible thing. And I'm like, so guess what? Now that woman's in my house. So that's, and so to even go further than that, and I really don't have answers on everything. I really don't, but very sweet couple, the husband in particular. I did extra prayers, and also I'm an ordained Christian minister. So I did this, like, it almost felt like a last rite. I'm like, why did I do that? That night I get an email at 1 a.m. and said, what did you do to my husband? I said, what happened? And she goes, he died unexpectedly. Well, the reading that came up, I didn't tell them, but the woman's like, I wish that he was dead because he's a protector. Now, they lived in such fear. Maybe that fear took over. I don't know what happened. I believe God's in control of our living or dying. I totally do. And God is in control. I don't know about that, but they had this haunting. They brought it in my home. And for 2 weeks, I had lights go on and off, and I just ignored it, to the point I heard really heavy footsteps. And then I was scratched through the inside 3. Since then, no, I don't do any of that. I bless my house. They don't touch me anymore. I said, you do not touch me anymore. And I also have God tell me, should I read this person or not? Is there something they're not telling me? So now he'll say, yeah, you did Ouija at 5. You have this thing on you. You need to see someone first. And they always admit it. Yeah, I do. So they test you on the paranormal. They have tested me before, not been truthful. So and that's not, for whatever reason, it's not really nice. So, but they can get help. There is someone like a demonologist or a spiritual warfare person, like a Bill Bean, that can help them. But to me, I want to work in that loving environment. But a lot of times people stir things up themselves, and I hate to say that, but a lot of times they do. I don't know if you find that's true.
Oh, absolutely. But that to me is malicious intent. And I don't like to speak ill of the dead, and the dead now is one of them. But, if you're going to test somebody, don't, I mean, that's just the wrong way to go about it,
Yeah, I haven't said that.
Let's see if she can find out that she's been terrorizing us for 4 years without telling her. At least she's good at what she does. But that just, it's Pandora's box of bad. The intent was bad, but again, we're talking about God. You have to think as a medium, the, spirits of those who suicided. Yeah. Now, did they cheat God by taking themselves out, or were they designed to die at that day, at that time, whether by their own hand or the hand of another? We just don't know. Right. So everything is its own situation.
I think whether people go, it's an accident, God knows all. And one of the things that come through with suicides, a lot of people say, are they in hell? That's not how the majority of suicides that come through. They come through whatever mental state you are now, and you cross over. That's why if you want to go ahead and work on your spirituality, that's a good idea, because you'll be that much more further along, because there's no shortcuts. If they are in a bad way and they are part of taking their own life, they're just going to pick up there, and they're going to get help on the other side. And they usually come through and say, I'm sorry, I understand now. I'm being helped. I love you. I'm so sorry I caused you any grief. So do I see them in a help place? No, I see them getting help and there's so much love. So I think that's a little bit of a misconception. That's not how they come through for me. And they come through very humble and they're getting help. So I don't think any of us can cheat our life purpose here. We need to do what we're going to do. And then,
Well, you opened the interview saying that, perhaps we choose our parents and we choose this particular lifetime. So you have to consider that maybe there was a choice going into this lifetime that it would end in suicide. Again, there's just so much. It
deep.
Depends on each specific, person and setting and what they learn afterwards. It's one micro moment that you'll never get back, whether it's a murder or a suicide. You'll never get that moment back. And the rest of your life and post-life, your history will judge you. And it won't account for all the good things you
all
did,
the
all
beauty
the
you
selfless things, all the loving things.
Right.
So there's just a big box of whatever in that, and it, but
when they, when these suicides come through, I feel sorry for them because think about it. Can you imagine? You're like, oops, well, maybe that wasn't a good idea. It's too late. And I just feel compassion for them. Because we can all learn, we're not perfect, none of us. We can learn from other people, we can learn from our experiences, or we can just live in a bubble and then just stay in our little perimeters in our little world. But we can learn from everything. And to me, I learn from when I do have suicides that come through that some are accidents and they are deemed and written down on their medical records as suicide. And I've had that happen a few times where, I mixed the wine with, or the liquor, whatever, with the pills, and oops, that's happened quite a few times. Like, I didn't know. One lady was laughing and she goes, I didn't know. And next thing you know, she goes, you wanted me to hang out with Jesus. And she goes, I know you're worried about it. She goes, I'm actually hanging out. She goes, who knew? It's really nice here, but I really didn't plan this. It was like very lighthearted. Like, I didn't plan this. And, but it's really nice here. And so it happens a lot when they say don't mix medications. They're really serious about that. And so that is a lot more common. But look, I wanted to go ahead because I wanted to say for the live version, say ghost story, but to me, it's love from beyond. It really is love from beyond. I want to save that one. And then I wanted to get more into like the quantum physics, different dimensions of these other crypto or gnomes or fairies that are coming through.
Sure.
But I wanted to
people talk with on Halloween too.
And exactly. And then we'll have a lot more fun with question and answer also on the live version, which the live version is tomorrow, Friday, the 30th at 7:30, right on this channel. And it's a 2-hour special.
Eastern time. Yep.
Eastern. So get your questions ready for Chip or for myself if I can answer anything. So maybe you could wrap up this. We didn't talk about, it is going to be a full moon, and you know a lot more about this than I do, but about what is this Mercury retrograde, what is the full moon, and then we'll close it out and rejoin then tomorrow night.
Yeah, we will, there's a lot of stuff about the history of Halloween, or at least all the stuff that came before it became Halloween that you probably wouldn't see coming. And the fact that there is a very special full moon on that happens as we're broadcasting, depending on where in the world you are at that time. That's a very special moon that kind of puts the cherry on top of a Mercury in retrograde that is not necessarily a bad thing for the Mercury in retrograde. That's another thing that gets a bad rep. We'll talk about that too.
Right.
But yeah, very special energy in the air at the time we'll be doing the live broadcast Friday the 30th at 7:30 p.m. Eastern right here.
Right. I know that sounds great. Well, I do know that with Mercury retrograde that things kind of go wrong. There's technical issues, which I've had this week. I have to admit but you have to go, okay, go with the flow. And another thing I know with Mercury retrograde that there is at a time of reflection. So you may be handling things in the past, maybe family situation, maybe things that you put off like your accounting or whatever that's in the past that needed to be handled. So I know it's a time like that, but what do they say? Don't sign contracts. Don't move
Well,
forward.
it is, you know, again, the bad rep comes from something we talked about earlier, self-fulfilling prophecy. See, communication breakdown, you know, communications break down all the time when Mercury's not in retrograde, but you know, once it's in retrograde, they go, oh, see, you know, communication broke down. See, self-fulfilling prophecy. It's just step back and reflect, because it's pause for a cause. Figure out, depending on what your birth sign is, what you're pausing for. Is it a career thing, a relationship thing, or just to get some rest or to breathe, you know? But
Right.
pause and reflect, because the best is yet to come, regardless. But when it goes, you know, back in to forward flow, it's all good, you know? And even then, communication breaks down.
And then also when we are airing live, will it be a blood moon?
It will be a blood moon, yeah. Which, you know, yeah, we could make that scarier than it
it sounds
because
scary.
it's Halloween.
Is it scary? I mean, I think it's kind of pretty.
It just means that it's a very rare occasion that a full moon occurs twice in a 1 month period, the same month period. Last time was February last year, so there was and February is a short, you know. So there was one on the 1st and one on the 28th, I think. So it just made it. And that's what the blood moon means. That's all. But it's a blood moon in Taurus. When it comes at a time, the beginning of really the autumn, you know. And the veil is thinned, and we'll be talking about that. Not necessarily a bad thing either, but you'll find out when you join us.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, there's a lot going on. So I'm excited about the live event. Again, that will be Friday on this channel. That will be 7:30 to 9:30. Get your questions ready. I don't know if we can answer, but we'll sure try, and we'll have a lot of fun.
Yeah, we'll give it a shot.
We'll give it a shot. And also, we'll have Chip's information below if you want to get a hold of him. But you're going to be able to ask him questions live, so you might as well, you know, give that a go.
Join us for that. It is a rare appearance.
It is. We're very lucky. I'm very lucky to have Chip, because he's been so busy with his radio show, and then now he's regrouping, and everybody's regrouping because of all this pandemic, which is why we wanted to do something fun and a little bit lighthearted and playful. And that's, I think, my message is to have a little fun with it. Don't, you know, we're in the state of being freaked out. Let's just be and enjoy the time we have, and really look at things as fascinating and curious. So before we end, I wanted to mention an Edgar Allan Poe. I came across it and I thought it was really interesting. Those who dream by day are cognizant of many things which escape those who dream only by night. And so, you know, where do you dream? I've been a daydreamer, and I'm also a night dreamer. So I'm just a big old dreamer. And to me, I just think there's so many magical things that we don't know about that are amazing, that I look forward to experiencing things myself. And I'm learning every day. I mean, I'm human. I'm here. I'm learning just like everybody else.
Yeah, me too. Yeah.
So, and we can learn from each other, and we need to learn to laugh at each other and not take things so seriously. Gosh, I tell you what, I am so not perfect. I can tell you. I mean, I work toward things, but no.
Guilty.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. So, also, before we leave, subscribe below, and that way you get alerts for upcoming shows. And if you like Chip, let us know, because we'll have him back. He has a wealth of information. I know he's being very humble, but I mean, in terms of, he's had and he'll tell you this, a couple UFO encounters. We're going to talk about that live. That was an amazing story. He's going to tell you that. He's already told me, really good. And any questions that you've got, but I mean, I would love to have him back on to be able to talk about many other things, because we're going to also be expanding our repertoire of guests, not just near-death experiences, which is near and dear to my heart. And that's kind of where my specialty lies. If you want to say a specialty, that sounds strange. Why? Because that's something, because I am one and I've studied it my whole life. It's just sort of a passion. But we're going to have some other passions of mine, which is also other topics, the Mandela effect. quantum physics, Bigfoot, aliens. So Chip knows a lot about this from his own radio show. So hopefully he will come back with us. Let us know if you like the content, what you'd like to hear more of. Give us some feedback at the bottom. And Chip, you are a delight. You're such a gracious, fun guest, and just such a quality, neat person. I feel very honored.
Well, it's an honor to be here. I thank you for that honor, Tamara. You know, good people know who good people are. So it's really an honor to, yeah, I'm, been kind of underground these days. So it's nice to pop my head in.
Yeah, thank you for coming out of your bunker. And I think we've all been in our own little bunker, in our own little bubble bunker
for a long time.
For a long time. So it's good that we are connecting out there, guys, right? So and that we're able to connect with Chip. So thank you for sharing yourself, and we'll see more of Chip and myself, Tamara Caulder Richardson, and Chip Reichenthal on Friday Live at Seeker Speak Live, and we're going to be airing this. It's going to be a premiere. So, so I don't know. I expect great things, I guess.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And we'll have some fun. It's not often that you have to find a less scary way to portray a Halloween because real life is so scary. Outside of that, normally it's kind of an escape. Okay, good. Let's find some scary because we're just not scared enough in our everyday lives, but not this year. And but
absolutely,
it's not necessarily not scary at all. Just saying.
Yeah, exactly. And look, we may even have a little fun talking about our favorite horror movies, because I have watched horror and sci-fi since a kid. So I tend to think I know a lot about that. I was comparing notes with the horror fan one time, and he's like, "Well, you do know a lot." I'm like, "I don't know if I'm kind of embarrassed if that's good to say or not." So, well, look, guys, thank you so much. Thank you, Chip. We'll see you here tomorrow night, Friday at 7:30 Eastern Time. And until then, have a happy Halloween and join us for our spectacular event.
Yeah, join us again and subscribe. Don't forget.
Subscribe. Right. Bye-bye.
Bye.